let's just have a look at this because I think it's kind of relevant here. So I'm going to bring it up now. Okay, so Zherka, who many of you will be aware of because he's quite famous. Well, for various things, really. He's quite famous for being on Fresh and Fit a lot and saying outrageous things. And Pearl's interviewed him several times. And I've actually been on a show with him as well. I was on a show with him in Miami back in the summer. It was myself. Obviously, Pearl was running the show. John Zherka, Gary the Numbers Guy, Tiffany Fox, the renowned former adult entertainment star, and some other people, and it all kind of went off, to be honest. We all got into like a bit of a beef at first and kind of ended up a little bit more amicable, but it was pretty funny. Anyway, so Zherka's a very interesting guy, and he has some very interesting things to say. He did this tweet earlier, and it says, "You have seen me look badass, look stupid, look like a fool, and anything else you can imagine, and women still chase me like dogs. You saw me do this with no clout, no money, and no friends. You have never seen Logan Paul or any YouTuber come close to replicating this magnetism, and you have never come to the conclusion that the only thing that separates me from the world is that I know that women crave toxic." Okay? And then he says, "Go to my website, you fucking insult fucks." But the first bit is the key thing, really, which is I know that women crave toxic, okay? And there's several things in here that we could unpack, right? So, yes, he has online looked badass. He has, occasionally looked stupid. Some crazy things have happened to him, like when he got into that fight in Miami recently and he got beaten up by that dude who was, significantly smaller than him. He's done things to look foolish, etc., but he still gets this female attention, okay? And he said that he's done this, when he didn't have money, when he had no friends, when he didn't really have the online status that he has now, okay? And what he's putting all of this down to is a very simple thing, which is that he understands that women crave toxic, okay? Now, I think he's onto something here, okay? I think he's onto something here. I mean, Zherka, whatever you may think of him, whatever you may know about him, and whatever you've seen of him sort of in, online or whatever, he is somebody who's very perceptive. He is somebody who kind of gets this stuff in his own kind of slightly crazy way. And what he's saying here really is at the root of what we're going to be going through today, which is that women are attracted to the dark triad characteristics in men, okay? Women are attracted to bad boys, right? So dudes who have these kind of slightly antisocial traits. So narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism, okay? And sometimes even sadism, although let's put that to one side. But women are certainly attracted to guys who have these darker traits to them, okay? And I think one of the problems for a lot of you dudes out there who are trying to date, you're trying to get some traction here, and it's just not really happening. Like, maybe you are, maybe you're like, you're approaching and nothing's really coming through, or you're approaching and you're getting some phone numbers but they're not responding, or you're approaching, you're getting some phone numbers and you're going on dates but then they're friend-zoning you afterwards, or they're ghosting you or whatever, right? Then, as I was saying in the stream yesterday, right, there's something lacking here. And I think men tend to have this Madonna whore perception of women where they sort of think, oh, well, she looks really nice, so she must be this very innocent person, she must be this very sweet kind of angelic girl. And what they don't recognize is that actually underneath it, firstly, women are more sexual than men, or arguably women are more sexual than men. They've got some pretty fucked up fantasies and desires and fetishes and things going on. And secondly, they are they have this craving for toxicity, right? And this is what Zherka's talking about. Now, Zherka is probably somebody who, has exhibited all of that stuff. He's clearly, well, I mean, look at his socials. He's clearly not somebody who's like a monogamous guy. I mean, if people are, the girls that he's engaging with are aware of him on social media, and a lot of them probably are, they will know that he's, having a good time, let's say, in various hotel rooms across Miami and different places, and that isn't putting them off, okay? They still want a piece of the pie. Why could that be? Well, Zherka is a high-value man. I mean, he's been in his ups and downs, but he's a decent looking bloke. He's tall, he's articulate, he has clout, he's got some money now. He is ticking many of the boxes for the high value guy. Okay, and there's always this idea. Well, women would rather share a high value guy than they would settle with a beta male, a lesser valued man, and have him all to themselves. Okay, this is something that you need to understand if you're not getting traction in dating, because, well, we're going to go through this list in a minute, but if you don't get this, then you're not going to be getting the results you want to be getting. We've got a few comments here. Pearl, go Troy. Cheers for tuning in, Pearl. Good to see you here. Marriage Causes Divorce says, women love narcissists. They love the dark triad. They need drama-rich environments. Exactly, and we're going to be getting into that in a second. And then he also says women love travel because they love adventure, drama, and excitement. By the way, guys, any questions, any comments, put them into the chat. We will deal with them as we go through, okay? And if you've got questions on this stuff, or, your opinion differs, then do put it in there, because I want to make these streams as actionable as possible for you, okay? So if you've got something that you feel hasn't been clarified, or you want to offer an alternative point or something, then put it in and we can talk about it, because that's what the point of this is, right? It's not just me sitting here talking for an hour or 2 hours, right? It's got to be about, what you guys want, male or female, and we'll try and fill in those gaps, okay? So think about this more as a dialogue than as a one-way street, and put anything that you want to bring into the chat, or if you want to slag me off or whatever, you can do that as well. Stone Balls, what a name, says it's taken 60 to 70 years of feminism to get us to this point, and it's getting worse. Do we really think this will change? And if so, how long will it take? Well, when you say if it will change, I mean, I guess you mean the modern mating marketplace, right? The modern dating marketplace. I can't see it changing, to be honest. I don't want to be the bringer of bad tidings, but I can't see it changing anytime soon. In fact, if anything, I think it's going to get worse, because when you think about the elements that have caused the situation that we're in, I mean, you mentioned feminism. Yes, that's one thing, sexual liberation and so on. Of course, that's a big element of it, but it's also about the technology, right? It's about social media. It's about Instagram. It's about the dating apps. It's about the connectivity that we have internationally in this global dating marketplace that now we're all in. So, she's comparing you to the bloke on the yacht in Miami who's got a 12-pack and he's, worth $1 billion or whatever, right? So the dating marketplace has become much more competitive, and I can only see that continuing. I can't see that getting any easier. I really can't. So, again, I don't want to be the bringer of bad tidings here, but, if you want to have any chance of making it work with the way things are, then you need to be, number one, you need to be leveling up. So you need to be working on your self-improvement, all of the key elements, which is fitness, fashion, grooming, the way that you look, like looks maxing as much as you can, going to the gym, working on your career, working on your money, all of that good stuff, having a fucking interesting life. That's the other thing, not a boring life. You want to have all of that stuff in play. And you also need to work on your game, right? You need to work on your riz. You need to work on your social skills and your social freedom. You kind of need all of it, all right? You could say, well, that's not fair. Why do guys have to do all this work? Well, life's tough. That's just how it is, okay? Anyway, with that being said, let's get into the topic, which is this 5 reasons why promiscuous men are seen as more desirable. Number 1, well, it's because promiscuous men are just inherently more attractive than other guys, okay? They're just inherently more attractive. Why is that? Well, because if you're a guy who has the ability to be promiscuous, and I accept that there are ranges of quality here. I mean, if you're being promiscuous, but it's with a bunch of, toothless Bulgarian overweight women in the middle of a village somewhere, then that's probably not that great. But if we're talking about, with some reasonable, decent quality women, and you're able to be promiscuous, then that in itself would indicate that you must have certain qualities that make you just more attractive. You are probably, and listen, don't shoot me. I'm not going to, don't want to black pill anybody here, but you're probably better looking. All right, or at least, you know, you've probably maximized the way that you look to the highest extent, so that you are above the threshold of other people. Now, actually, there was a blogger called Good Looking Loser, an early manosphere blogger. He does do some video stuff now, but I think he's on Rumble. Not very big on video, but his blog, his written blog, was fantastic. And there's some just great stuff on there. I'd highly encourage you, if you haven't read his stuff, to go back and search for it. You can still get it online. There's archives of it. And his message was actually very simple. It was basically, look good, approach as much as possible, be super social, push for the close. That is to say, move things towards, you know, intimacy as fast as you can, and rinse and repeat, okay? Taking a lot of the nonsense out of all of the game stuff, a lot of the bullshit, a lot of the complexities, and just being, look good, right? Go to the gym, wear decent clothes, be in shape, have a good haircut, right? Fucking basic stuff, right? But look as good as you can, approach as much as you can, be aggressive in terms of moving things forward towards escalation, and that's it. And keep doing that, okay? And actually, that message is still relevant today. All of that stuff, Jesus, how unprofessional. All of that stuff is exactly what you should be doing, right? You know, if you do that and you do that enough, then you're going to have a better dating life than like 95% of other guys on the planet, okay? So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. But you know, the guys who are acing it, they're going to have this stuff dialed in, right? They're probably going to be the more attractive. And actually, the reason I mentioned Good Looking Loser was this. The other thing that he says is that, yeah, you need to look good, but you don't need to look that good. We're only talking about, you know, a percentage or two higher than the average dude. That's it. We're not talking, not everybody has to be Justin Waller, okay? Not everybody has to have a 12-pack. It's not quite that, you know, it's not quite that competitive yet. You just have to look a bit better than the other dudes around you, okay? And on average, the other dudes around you are obese, they're sitting in the basement, eating their metaphorical or literal Cheetos, they're not looking after themselves, they've got man boobs, they're out of shape, they're watching porn 24/7, they're not really doing very much of any values, right? So actually, the bar is not that high. You just need to be a bit better than that, okay? So anyway, these are guys who are better than average, okay? Height, maybe that comes into it a bit. I think height gets massively overstated in this space, but yeah, maybe that comes into it a little bit. But they probably are guys who have shit going on in their lives. They are going to be guys who probably lead pretty interesting lives. They do kind of interesting things. Maybe they're guys who travel a lot. Maybe they're guys who are in business for themselves. Perhaps they're making some decent money, okay? You know, maybe they're making some good money. Money's not the be-all and end-all, but as we said yesterday, it does help to facilitate, get you in front of higher tier women, okay? Maybe they've got that going on. And, yeah, and they've probably got some riz as well, okay? If you look at Zherka, right, so Zherka is a very good example of somebody who, and he sells a course on it, right, but he's clearly somebody who has that inherent ability with women because he's funny, he's charming, he's quite loud, you know, he has a loud, commanding voice, he has that dominant sort of aspect to his personality. Okay, all of that stuff counts for something. Now, I've seen people online saying, well, yeah, but Zherka looks like a Calvin Klein model, so, you know, whatever. But it's not just about that, right? It's about how he comes across and how he engages with these women. And you can see on the videos that he's not taking their shit. He's kind of teasing them. He's giving them shit back, right? He's creating polarity. He's creating tension and so on and so forth, right? So if we're pegging him as not pegging him, that would be weird. If we're categorizing him as a promiscuous man, which I think probably fair to say he is, then you can see that there's somebody, and he's got all of these bases covered, okay? And he is just inherently more attractive than the average chode who is a bit of a boring fucker, who doesn't have a lot to say, who probably isn't very funny, isn't very challenging, isn't very dominant, isn't leading an interesting life, isn't in decent shape, doesn't have any money, doesn't have status, and all the rest of it. Okay, so the guys who are able to be promiscuous in this market are simply going to be the more attractive guys. But, and this is before any of the black pill incel people come into the chats. Oh, so sorry about this, guys. That's before any of the incel black people come into the chat. The fact is, it's not just about looks, okay? It's about these other aspects as well. Super, super key. Super, super important. Right. We got some comments. Mart says, good stuff. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So marriage causes divorce says you have to be better than the women choosing to be single.